Chosen one, there is a reward forming over your life right now, and it will not survive you talking about it too soon. Two things have gone quiet inside you without your permission: the part of you that once wondered freely, and the part of you that once received without fear. Both are being switched back on right now, in secret, in the correct order. What feels like heaven overlooking you is heaven protecting a photograph still developing in the dark. Stay in the room. Do not open the door yet. Tonight you will learn exactly why the silence is the reward arriving, and what you are meant to do with your hands while you wait. By the end of this message, 3 things will be true that are not true right now. You will understand why this delay was never punishment and what it actually was. You will feel, maybe for the first time in years, the exact moment something in your chest unclenches. And you will walk away with something to do today, not someday, that moves you further into what has already been assigned to you. I know something about you that you have not said out loud to anyone. There is a version of a plan, a dream, or a change sitting inside you right now that you have almost told someone about 3 or 4 separate times this month. Each time, something stopped you at the last second. You told yourself it was not the right moment. It was not timing. It was something else. Chosen one. That hesitation was not weakness. Something in you already knows what this message is about to explain in full. Here is what nobody tells you about the space between the promise and the reward. It is not empty. It is not a waiting room with nothing happening in it. There is a room, and it has no clock in it, only a kind of ripening. The ones who understand this room are the ones who stop demanding a date and start honoring a process. I am going to call this room something, because once you can name a thing, you can stop fighting it. I call it the Kairos room. Not the room of Chronos, the ticking clock kind of time that runs the same whether you are ready or not. The room of Kairos, the appointed time, the time that only opens when the thing inside it has finished forming. You have been standing in the Kairos room for a while now, maybe months, maybe longer than you want to admit tonight, and you have been calling it delay. You have been calling it being forgotten. You have looked at other people whose doors seem to open faster and asked, "What is wrong with me? Why is mine still shut?" Nothing is wrong with you. You are simply standing in a room built for ripening, and ripening cannot be rushed by asking louder. There is a pattern I have watched repeat itself so many times it stopped surprising me. A person is given something, a direction, a nudge, a private assurance that something good is coming, and the very first thing they want to do is tell someone. Not because they are bragging, because saying it out loud makes it feel more real. But here is the strange part, the part almost nobody notices until it is pointed out to them. The moment they say it, some of the pressure that was pushing them to actually build it quietly disappears. The telling replaces some of the doing. You have felt this before, and you know it, even if you have never had language for it. Think about a time you announced a plan to someone before you had done anything real toward it yet. A new habit, a new direction, a decision to finally change something. Do you remember how good that conversation felt? And do you remember how, a few days later, some of the fire that was supposed to carry you into action had quietly leaked out through your mouth? That is not a coincidence, and it is not just you. It is a pattern, and I want to be honest with you here, because I could make this sound more mysterious than it is, and I am not going to. This is not a curse. It is not some spiritual attack hunting you specifically. It is a very human pattern, observed again and again in people trying to grow, change, or receive something new. Speaking a thing before it is finished forming gives a small false taste of having already arrived, and that taste is enough to quietly loosen the grip that was supposed to carry the work all the way through. That is why the instruction has always been the same. in every generation, in every tradition that has taken transformation seriously. Guard the thing that is still forming, not because sharing is wrong, because timing is everything. If you are still listening, something in you has already recognized itself in this. Most people scroll past a message like this one within the first 30 seconds. You did not. That is not an accident either. I want to say something honest here before we go any further, because I do not want you to feel cornered by anything in this message. If none of this is landing, if your life right now is simply full and steady, and you came across this by chance, this particular word may not be for you tonight, and that is completely fine. This is not for everyone. It is for the ones who felt something shift in their chest in the last 2 minutes. But if you did feel it, here is a second thing I know about you, and I want you to notice how specific it is before you decide. It is a coincidence. There have been nights recently where you have laid in bed, not sad exactly, just wide awake, running through the same handful of questions. Why has this not moved yet? Am I doing something wrong? Is this even real? Or did I imagine that I was ever promised anything at all? Let me give you the first real taste of what tonight is actually about, because I do not believe in making you wait through an hour of build-up before you get something you can use. There is a reason you feel closed off, tired, and strangely far from the part of yourself that used to feel curious and light before life got heavy. It is not because something is broken in you permanently. It is because a very specific inner state, one you had easily as a child and lost slowly as an adult, has gone quiet. There is a name for what closes it, and there is a way it reopens. I am not going to explain the whole mechanism yet. I am going to let that sit with you for a moment, because the fuller explanation is coming, and it changes how you see almost everything else in this message. If any part of what I have said in the last few minutes has landed somewhere true in you, place the words, "I hear this," in the space beneath this message. Not because I need to see it, because naming what is true in you right now, while it is still fresh, is how you keep from letting this moment slip past you the way so many others already have. There is one more thing I want to say to you before we go further, and it is only fair that I say it now instead of later. I do not know your name. I do not know your circumstances. But there is a pattern I have watched repeat itself in person after person who came to a message shaped like this one, and it is close enough, common enough, human enough that I feel comfortable naming a piece of it out loud. You check your phone for a sign more than you would ever admit to anyone. You have prayed the same prayer so many times, you have started to feel embarrassed saying it again. You have a specific number, a specific song, a specific small coincidence that you have quietly decided means something, and you have never told a single person that you believe that. If any part of that just made you go still for a second, that stillness is not coincidence either. Now, let us talk about what actually closed off part of you, because once you see it clearly, you will not be able to unsee it, and that is exactly the point. Think about how a child pays attention, not to a screen, to a real, ordinary thing, a bug crossing a sidewalk, a puddle after rain, a sound in another room. A child does not decide to be curious. Curiosity is simply the default setting. There is no effort in it, no forcing, no trying to relax into it. It is just there, wide open, taking in the world without judging it first. You called that laziness once you got older, or you called it distraction, or you called it not being serious enough, not being focused enough. You spent years training yourself out of it, layering discipline and stress and deadlines and comparison on top of that open, wondering attention until it went quiet. And here is the part almost nobody tells you. You did not lose that state because you are broken. You lost it because it got buried under years of a very specific, very ordinary kind of wear. You have called this tiredness. You have called it burnout. You have called it just being an adult now. I am asking you to consider that it might be something more precise than any of those words. Once you see the actual shape of it, a lot of what has felt confusing about the last few years of your life will suddenly make a different kind of sense. Here is the mechanism, as plainly as I can say it. The human mind, especially the adult mind, under repeated stress, adapts to what it experiences over and over by responding to it less. This is not a spiritual theory. It is a very well-documented pattern in how attention works. The first time you see something beautiful, your whole body notices. The 500th time you pass the same beautiful thing while worried about bills, your body barely registers it at all. Repetition under stress dulls response. That dulling is not a flaw in you. It is what stress does to any mind, in anyone, over years, without exception. I am not going to tell you that scientists somewhere discovered a secret switch in your brain, because that would not be honest, and I care more about telling you something true than something impressive. What I will tell you is this. There is a real, well-recognized pattern in how people slowly lose easy access to that open, wondering, curious kind of attention as stress and repetition pile up across the years. I have watched it in person after person, always the same shape. And because I need language for it, because a thing without a name is hard to work with, I call this pattern the quiet drift. The quiet drift is not a diagnosis. It is not a disease. It is not permanent damage. It is simply what happens, slowly, invisibly, to almost every adult who spends enough years under enough pressure without ever deliberately reversing it. You did not do anything wrong to end up here. You just lived long enough, under enough weight, for the drift to happen the way it happens to nearly everyone. Here is why this matters more than it might sound like it matters right now. That open, curious, wondering state you had as a child was never just a nice feeling. It was the exact state your mind used to notice new opportunities, to receive good things without immediately finding a reason to doubt them, to stay present instead of spiraling into worry about everything that could go wrong. When the quiet drift closes that state down, it does not just make you feel a little duller, it makes it genuinely harder to notice and to actually receive the very things you have been praying and hoping for. So, think back now to the years you have spent asking why the door has not opened yet. Some of that delay was kairos, the ripening we already named. But some of it, honestly, was you standing right in front of an open door with a mind so drifted, so dulled by years of stress, that you were not fully present enough to see it, or to receive it even if it had swung open in front of you. This is not meant to make you feel worse. It is meant to make you feel free, because a problem you can name is a problem you can actually work with. You are not failing at receiving your reward. You have been trying to receive it through a state of attention that has quietly gone dim, the way a lamp dims slowly enough that you stop noticing the room getting darker. You are not broken, you are drifted, and drift, unlike damage, can be reversed. Here is something worth sitting with for a moment. Notice that nowhere in what I just described is there any blame. Not toward you, not toward the years that shaped you, not toward the pressure that built up slowly enough that you never chose it on purpose. Drift is not a moral failure. It is closer to weather. It happens to almost everyone who lives long enough under enough weight, and the fact that it happened to you says nothing about your worth, your faith, or your discipline. What it does mean is that some of the years you have spent asking God why nothing is moving may have partly been years spent asking the wrong question. The question was never only, when will this arrive? It was also, quietly underneath, am I present enough right now to actually receive it when it does? Those are two different questions, and tonight is the first time many people have ever heard them separated out loud. There is a reason children are used as the picture of this in every wisdom tradition that has ever taught this truth. Become like a little child again, not naive, not foolish, but wide open, present, wondering, unguarded in your ability to receive. That instruction was never really about age. It was about a state, a specific inner posture that most adults lose slowly and can regain deliberately once they know what they are actually reaching for. Here is your contrast, because I want this to be simple enough that you could repeat it to someone else tonight. You are not lazy. You are drifted. You are not undisciplined. You are drifted. You are not spiritually behind everyone else who seems to be receiving faster than you. You are simply standing in the same open door they are standing in, except your attention has quietly dimmed enough that you have not fully noticed the door is already open. There is an old story about a young man named Joseph, given a promise so vivid it came to him twice in one season. In dreams, he could still describe, years later, in exact detail. He told his dream out loud, too early, to people who were not ready to hold it, and the telling cost him more than his silence ever would have. What followed was not the reward. What followed was a pit, and years he did not choose, and a house that was not his own. But somewhere in those years, something shifted in him that had nothing to do with his circumstances changing. He stopped narrating his own promise to everyone who would listen. He carried it quietly. He did the next right thing in front of him, in a foreign house, in a prison cell, without an audience, without applause. And when the reward finally arrived, it did not arrive as a small correction to what he had lost. It arrived as a completely different scale of provision than the dream itself had even described. Silence had not shrunk the promise. Silence had let it grow into something the noisy version of him could never have carried. There is a woman I think about often, not someone famous, just someone who once described her own version of the quiet drift better than most people I have ever heard try. She said that somewhere in her 30s, she noticed she had stopped looking up. Not sad, not depressed, just busy in a way that had quietly closed her eyes to the sky, to the small, ordinary beauty she used to notice without trying. She told me she began, almost as an experiment, spending a few quiet minutes most days doing nothing but letting her attention soften, the way it used to soften as a child watching clouds. Within a season, she said the strangest thing had happened. She started noticing doors that had apparently been open the whole time. Opportunities she swore had not existed a few months earlier, that in hindsight had probably been sitting there the entire time, waiting for a version of her present enough to actually see them. I am not telling you that story to promise you the same exact timeline. Every season is different, and I cannot tell you yours will look identical to hers. I am telling you because the shape of it, the noticing that follows the softening, is a pattern I have heard described the same way by enough different people that I no longer think it is a coincidence. I want to tell you something true about myself here, because I am not interested in pretending I have never struggled with any of this. I do not know the exact day your particular door will fully open. Nobody honest can tell you that, and anyone who claims to know your exact date is not telling you the truth. What I do know, from watching this pattern play out again and again, is the sequence. And the sequence is what we are here for tonight. Let me give you a picture of the other side of this, because you deserve to see it clearly before we go any further. Picture a morning, maybe half a year from now, where you wake up before your alarm, not because you are anxious, but because you are curious about the day. You make coffee slowly. You notice the light coming through the window the way you used to notice things as a child, without trying to notice it, without forcing yourself to be present. You catch yourself smiling at something small, a bird outside, a message from someone you love, for no performance, no audience, just because something in you is finally awake again. You are not rushing that morning. There is no urgency in it, no checklist running underneath it, the way there usually is. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you notice that you have not felt this unhurried in years, and instead of asking why, you simply let yourself stay in it a little longer. That version of you already exists, not in some far-off future you have to earn through years of effort. In a much closer place than you think, on the other side of one specific reversal we are going to talk about tonight. The distance between you and that morning is not time. It is one particular kind of return. If something in what I just described made your chest tighten a little, in the good way, in the way that means a part of you recognized a version of itself it misses, place the words, "The quiet drift ends" beneath this message. Let that be the moment you stopped calling yourself lazy and started calling this what it actually is. There is one more layer to the Kairos room worth naming before we move on, because it changes how you carry yourself while you wait inside it. Not everyone is given something to hold in silence. Being trusted with a promise you cannot yet explain to anyone is not a small thing, and it is not random. Think about how you would actually hand someone a secret in your own life. You do not hand it to the person who tells everyone everything within the hour. You hand it to the one who can hold weight without needing to set it down in front of an audience. I call that capacity the carrier mark. If you are the kind of person life has trusted with things you could not explain yet, that itself is information about who you are. You have probably felt the pull to explain yourself to people who were never going to understand what was happening in you anyway. A parent who wants a 5-year plan. A friend who wants proof before they will believe anything is really changing. A partner who keeps asking when, as though asking harder will make the ripening move faster. You do not owe any of them a play-by-play of something still forming. That is not the same as lying to anyone, and it is not the same as being secretive out of shame. There is a difference between hiding something because you are afraid of it and holding something because you are protecting it. Shame hides, honor holds. The carrier mark is not about deception. It is about knowing which of your rooms are for public conversation and which ones are still under construction. Here is a contrast worth keeping close through the rest of tonight. You are not being secretive. You are being trusted. You are not avoiding the truth. You are protecting it until it can stand on its own without needing anyone else to believe it first. I want to give you one more honest qualifier here, because I would rather underpromise than let you walk away with something false. Holding something in silence does not guarantee a particular date, a particular amount, or a particular shape of outcome. Nobody can promise you that, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. What silence does guarantee is that you stop leaking the exact energy that was supposed to carry the work through to its finish. There is a pattern worth noticing in how the Kairos room actually resolves for most people who stay in it well. It rarely resolves all at once, in one dramatic moment. It resolves in a series of small, almost boring confirmations, a door that opens slightly easier than expected, a conversation that lines up strangely well, a feeling of relief that arrives before the actual proof does. Watch for the small confirmations. They are usually the first sign the room is finishing its work long before the visible reward shows up. We are only getting started, chosen one. Because the quiet drift explains one closed door. There is a second one, and it has been quietly shaping something even more painful than tiredness. It has been shaping the way you relate to money, to receiving, to the very idea of enough. And once you see how these two closed doors were always working together, the whole shape of your waiting season is going to look completely different. Here is a small thing to notice about yourself over the next few days, because it will make what comes next land harder. Pay attention to what happens in your body the next time something good actually shows up. Not the big things, the small ones. A compliment, an unexpected bit of ease, a little extra money landing in your account from somewhere you were not counting on. Watch whether you actually let it in, or whether some part of you flinches first, braces first, waits for the catch before it lets itself feel the good thing at all. Most people do this so automatically they have never once noticed themselves doing it. I am asking you to notice it now, because in a moment you are going to understand exactly why that flinch exists, where it came from, and what it has been quietly costing you. That flinch is not gratitude, it is not humility, it is not being realistic. It is a trained reflex, built the same slow way the quiet drift was built, except this one did not close off your wonder. This one closed off your ability to simply receive without first defending yourself against the possibility of loss. Think back to Joseph again for a moment, because there is a second detail in that story worth sitting with. When the reward finally arrived in a foreign palace, with more provision than his family had ever seen, he did not receive it the way a starving man grabs bread. He received it the way someone receives a gift they trust is not going to be taken back. That trust was not naive. It had been built slowly through every quiet year that came before it. Chosen one, you are being trained the same way, whether it feels like training or not. Every day you hold this in silence instead of narrating it for an audience. Every day you let your attention soften instead of white-knuckling your way through it. Every day you practice noticing small good things instead of bracing against them. You are building the exact capacity that will let you actually keep what is coming, instead of receiving it and somehow losing it again within a season. This training is not dramatic. It rarely feels spiritual in the moment. It looks like ordinary days, ordinary choices, a few quiet minutes here and there, where you choose presence over performance. But ordinary, repeated often enough, is exactly how every real transformation in Scripture and in life has actually been built. Nobody wakes up permanently changed after one emotional night. People wake up changed after enough ordinary days stacked quietly on top of each other. Here is a contrast worth carrying with you into what comes next. You are not waiting to be rewarded. You are being prepared to receive without flinching. Those are two very different seasons, and most people never realize they were living in the second one the whole time they thought they were stuck in the first. Stay with me through what comes next, because the second door explains something the first one cannot. It explains why even when good things do arrive, some part of you braces instead of receives, and why that bracing has a name too. The bracing you just noticed in yourself, the flinch that shows up right before something good is allowed to land, has a name. I am going to walk you through it slowly, because this one runs deeper in most people than the first, and it deserves to be seen clearly instead of rushed past. Here is the symptom, and I want you to actually check yourself against it instead of assuming it does not apply to you. When money comes in, even a small, unexpected amount, is your very first thought about it, or your very first thought where it needs to go, what it needs to cover, what emergency it might be needed for later. Before you have even had a full breath of gratitude, has your mind already started rationing it? There is another version of this same symptom that shows up in how you talk, not just how you think. Listen to yourself the next time someone compliments something you own or asks how things are going financially. Does a small automatic disclaimer slip out before you can stop it? It is nothing really. We are just getting by. I am sure it will not last. That reflex to shrink good news the instant it leaves your mouth is the exact same pattern wearing a different outfit. Most people call this being responsible, being careful, being a realist instead of a dreamer. I want to gently challenge that explanation, not because responsibility is bad, but because there is a difference between wise stewardship and a nervous system that has never once, not even for a single unguarded second, Let itself simply receive without immediately calculating the cost of losing it. You have called this practicality. You have called it just being smart with money. You have called it learning from hard years that taught you not to trust when things look good. I am asking you to consider that underneath the practical language, something older and more automatic has been running the whole time. Here is the mechanism, told to you honestly, without dressing it up as something more mysterious than it is. When a person lives under real or repeated financial stress, their attention narrows. This is a well-recognized pattern in how the mind handles scarcity of any kind, not just money, and it makes sense as a survival response. A mind that is worried about not having enough gets very good, very fast, at scanning for threats, for shortfalls, for the next bill, the next expense, the next way this could go wrong. That scanning once served you. It kept you alert during seasons that genuinely required alertness. The problem is that this scanning does not turn off just because circumstances improve. It becomes a default setting, a lens the mind keeps using long after the original danger has passed. So even when good things arrive, even when an opportunity or a gift or an answered prayer shows up in front of you, that same narrowed, threat-scanning attention is still running underneath. It treats the good thing the same way it treats everything else, as one more variable to manage instead of one more gift to receive. I am not going to tell you that researchers somewhere discovered a hidden switch in your bank account or your brain, because that would not be honest. And this message only works if I tell you the truth, even when the truth is less dramatic than the mystery would be. What I will tell you is that the narrowing itself, the way scarcity trains attention to brace instead of receive, is a real, well-recognized pattern in how people relate to money under repeated stress. I have watched it in enough people, across enough different income levels, that I no longer think it has anything to do with how much someone actually has. I call this pattern the scarcity loop, because that is exactly what it is, a loop, not a single event. Stress narrows attention. Narrowed attention makes it harder to notice or receive good things fully. The missed or half-received good thing reinforces the belief that there is never enough, and the belief tightens the stress a little further, ready to narrow the attention again the next time something good shows up. You did not choose this loop any more than you chose the quiet drift. It was built the same way, slowly, through repetition, through hard seasons that taught your nervous system to protect itself, the only way it knew how. But here is what almost nobody tells people caught inside it. The loop does not require more money to break. It requires a change in what the attention is doing while the money is present. Think back now to every season you have described as almost enough, almost stable, almost through it. I want you to consider that some of those almosts were not actually shortage. Some of them were good things arriving into a mind so tightly narrowed by the scarcity loop that it barely registered the good thing before moving straight to the next worry in line. This is not meant to make you feel foolish for the years you spent afraid. Fear that started as protection is not something to be ashamed of. This is meant to show you that the fear, however reasonable it once was, has been quietly costing you the ability to actually receive the very provision you have been asking for. There is an old prayer that asks for daily bread, not a warehouse of bread, not a guarantee for the next 10 years, just enough for today. I used to think that prayer was about humility, about not being greedy. I think now it is also about attention. A person praying honestly for daily bread is a person practicing trust one day at a time, instead of trying to control every future day through anxious stockpiling in the present. The scarcity loop hates that prayer because it wants certainty about tomorrow before it will relax about today. But certainty about tomorrow was never actually available to anyone, loop or no loop. The only difference the loop makes is whether the uncertainty gets carried with tension or carried with trust. Same uncertain future either way. Completely different way of living inside it. I want you to hear this plainly, because it deserves to be said without any spiritual decoration around it. You are tired, not lazy, not faithless, tired. Years of scanning for threats that money might bring. Years of bracing before good things even arrive. That is exhausting work, and most people carrying it have never once been told that it is even a describable pattern, let alone one that can loosen. Rest is part of this repair too, not an indulgence you earn after the provision arrives, but a practice that helps the provision arrive in the first place. A mind that never rests stays narrowed. A mind that rests, even briefly, even imperfectly, begins to widen again, and a widened mind is exactly the kind of mind that notices doors it would have missed while running scared. You are not bad with money. You are not undisciplined or unfaithful or lacking in trust the way you may have privately accused yourself of being on hard nights. You are looped, and a loop, once you can see its shape clearly, can be interrupted. Here is your contrast for this one. You are not ungrateful, you are looped. You are not faithless for feeling afraid when good things arrive. You are looped. The provision was never withheld from you because you did not deserve it. It has been arriving into a mind trained to brace instead of receive, and that training can be retrained on purpose, starting far sooner than you think. I know what some of you are thinking right now, and I want to say it out loud instead of letting it sit quietly in the back of your mind unanswered. This sounds nice. It sounds like something that works in a message like this one and falls apart the moment real bills are due. I understand that reaction because I have had versions of it myself listening to other people describe patterns that sounded too tidy to be true. Here is why I do not think this is one of those tidy, hollow ideas. I am not telling you the scarcity loop is the only thing standing between you and provision. Real circumstances are real. Bills are real. I am telling you that the loop is one layer, a layer almost nobody names out loud, and naming a layer does not erase the others. It simply stops that particular one from silently working against every other effort you are already making. This is a pattern I have watched repeat itself across very different lives, different incomes, different countries, different seasons. The shape stays the same even when the circumstances do not. That repetition, seen again and again, is not proof of a formula. It is simply what a real pattern looks like when you finally have language to notice it. I want to be honest with you about something here because I think it matters more than most messages like this one are willing to admit. I cannot promise you a specific amount, a specific date, or a specific financial outcome, and anyone who tells you they can promise those things is not telling you the truth. What I can tell you from the pattern itself is that a calmer, more receptive relationship with money changes the way opportunities are noticed and used, even before the total amount available has changed at all. There is a story that gets told often in rooms like this one, sometimes true, sometimes exaggerated, about people who came into sudden money and lost it within a few short years. I do not think the common explanation for that story is complete. The common explanation says they simply were not disciplined enough to manage it. I think, in more cases than anyone likes to admit, they received the money into a mind still running the scarcity loop, still scanning for threat, still bracing instead of receiving. The loop spent it the same anxious way it always spends everything, fast, defensively, without the calm clarity that actual stewardship requires. This is why the sequence we are building tonight matters so much. Reopening the wonder that the quiet drift closed is not a separate project from healing your relationship with money. It is the first half of the same repair. A mind that has relearned how to notice and receive small good things without flinching is a mind that will handle larger provision very differently than a mind still running old survival software. If any part of this has felt uncomfortably accurate in the last few minutes, place the words "the loop is seen" beneath this message. Seeing a pattern clearly is the very first step in interrupting it, and I want you to mark this moment the same way you marked the last one. Let me tell you about a man I will simply call the accountant, because that was his actual profession. And there was something almost funny about a man who managed money for other people for a living while quietly running the tightest, most anxious version of the scarcity loop I had ever personally watched up close. He could recite exact figures for every client he served. He could not tell you, without checking, how much was sitting in his own modest savings account, because looking at it made his chest tighten, and he had trained himself to avoid the feeling by simply not looking. Responsible with everyone else, terrified, quietly, of his own numbers. What eventually shifted for him was not a windfall. It was a season of deliberately practicing the opposite of the loop, looking at small amounts without flinching. Letting a modest, unexpected refund sit in his account for a full week without immediately assigning it somewhere, just to practice the sensation of having without managing, small, almost silly-sounding exercises. He told me later that the strangest part was not that his finances changed dramatically overnight. It was that his chest simply stopped tightening every time he opened his banking app. From that calmer place, decisions that used to feel impossible started feeling obvious, not because the numbers had changed yet, because the mind reading the numbers finally had. I am not telling you his story to promise you an identical timeline, because I do not know your circumstances and would be lying if I claimed I did. I am telling you because the shape of what shifted in him, calm before capacity, is a shape I have heard described the same way by enough different people that it has stopped feeling like coincidence to me. There is a second story worth placing next to his, because it shows the same pattern from the opposite direction. A young mother, raising 2 children mostly on her own, told me once that she used to feel a strange, low-grade guilt every single time she spent $1 on anything that was not strictly necessary. Not because anyone had told her that directly. It had simply been absorbed, somewhere along the way, from years of watching money arrive and immediately vanish into obligation. She said the turning point for her was small enough that she almost did not mention it. She started, once a week, buying herself one small, completely unnecessary thing: a coffee, a flower from the grocery store. Nothing that threatened her budget in any real way. What she was practicing was not spending, it was permission. The felt experience of receiving something good without immediately needing to justify it. Within a few months, she said her whole posture around money had shifted in a way she could not fully explain to people who had not gone through it themselves. She described it as feeling, for the first time in years, like money was something that could flow toward her instead of something she constantly had to defend against running out. I want to draw a distinction here that matters, because I do not want you to hear any of this as an argument against wisdom, budgeting, or careful planning. Those are good things. Stewardship is a real, honorable practice, and nothing in what I am describing tonight is an argument against it. The scarcity loop is not wisdom. It is fear wearing the costume of wisdom. You can usually tell the difference by the feeling underneath the decision, not the decision itself. A wise no comes from clarity. A scarcity no comes from a tightening in the chest that arrives before you have even thought the decision through. Here is a simple way to tell them apart in your own life going forward. Ask yourself, in the moment you are about to say no to something, whether the no is coming from a calm assessment of what is actually wise or from a flinch that showed up before you even had time to think. The flinch is the loop talking. The calm assessment is you. Now, I want to pause and say something plainly, because I think you deserve plain honesty more than you deserve another beautiful metaphor. If what I am describing tonight sounds too simple, too good, almost too easy to actually be the missing piece, I understand that reaction, and I am not going to pretend it is not a fair one to have. Here is what I would say to that skepticism, because I have felt it myself. This is not a claim that changing your inner state alone deposits money into your account. Nobody honest would tell you that, and I am not telling you that. What is being described is something narrower and, I think, more believable. A calmer, more present, less defensively narrowed mind notices opportunities it would otherwise miss, receives support it would otherwise deflect, and makes decisions from clarity instead of fear. That is not magic. That is simply how attention works, applied to money instead of anything else. If you have tried everything else already, budgeting systems, discipline programs, willpower alone, and still find yourself looping the same way under stress, that is not evidence that you are the exception this does not work for. It is usually evidence that every other approach addressed the numbers and never once addressed the loop underneath them. There is one more sign of the scarcity loop worth naming, because it is the one people are usually least willing to admit to themselves. It shows up not in what you keep, but in what you struggle to give. Genuine generosity, the kind that flows easily instead of straining, requires a nervous system that actually believes there will be enough left over. A mind still running the loop can give, but it often gives anxiously, watching the account the whole time, and calls that generosity when it is closer to a transaction made from fear. I have watched people who finally interrupted the loop describe giving differently afterward, not as an obligation performed to earn favor, but as an overflow, a natural motion from a fuller place instead of a scared one. That shift is one of the clearest outward signs that the loop, at least in that moment, has loosened its grip. Here is a humility statement I want to offer you plainly, because I think it matters as much as anything else said tonight. I do not know how deep your particular version of this loop runs, and I am not going to pretend a single message undoes years of trained fear in one sitting. What I do know is that naming the pattern accurately is always the first real step, and most people never even get that far, because nobody ever gave them the language for what they were actually experiencing. Chosen one, if you are still here with me, notice that most people who started this message are no longer listening. Something in you has recognized itself twice now, once in the quiet drift and once in the scarcity loop, and that recognition is not a small thing. It usually means both patterns have been quietly running your life for longer than you realized, working together, closing the same door from two different directions. Here is where these two doors meet, because I do not want you to walk away thinking they are unrelated. The quiet drift closes your ability to notice and wonder. The scarcity loop closes your ability to receive without bracing. Put those two together, and you get exactly the season so many people describe when they say, "I feel like I am praying into a wall." Not because heaven stopped answering, because two separate closures working together have made it genuinely hard to notice the answer even when it arrives, and hard to actually keep it even when you do notice. That is why silence matters as much as it does. Every time you narrate your unfinished plan to someone who is going to respond with fear or doubt, you feed the scarcity loop fresh material. Every time you rush to explain or defend a thing still forming, you interrupt the quiet, curious, noticing that the quiet drift needs to heal. Silence is not just about protecting a secret. Silence is the only environment where both repairs can actually happen at the same time, undisturbed. There is an old line of wisdom that says a fool gives full vent to his feelings, but a wise person holds them back until the right moment. That is not a call to suppress everything you feel. It is an observation about timing, the same observation this entire message has been circling since the first sentence. What is held with discipline for a season tends to arrive stronger than what is spilled out the moment it is felt. Think about how differently a seed behaves depending on whether it is planted in soil or left sitting on a windowsill where everyone can watch it. The one on the windowsill gets attention, gets admired, gets talked about. It also never becomes anything more than a seed because it was never covered by the dark, quiet soil it actually needed to grow. The one planted underground gets no audience at all for a long season. It also becomes the only one that ever bears fruit. Your reward is a seed right now, chosen one, not a windowsill decoration. It needs the dark. It needs the quiet. It needs you to resist the very human urge to dig it up every few days just to check whether it is growing yet. Because that checking, that showing, that narrating is exactly the kind of exposure that stalls a seed before it ever gets the chance to root. I want to name something that might be forming in you right now as a question, because I think it deserves to be answered directly instead of left hanging. If silence matters this much, does that mean you can never talk about any of this to anyone, ever, for the rest of your life? No. It means there is a difference between narrating something to relieve your own anxiety and sharing something with someone who has actually earned the trust to hold it well. The first drains the seed. The second, rare as it is, can sometimes even help it grow. The skill this season is asking you to build is discernment about which is which. We are getting close now to the part of tonight where I show you exactly why the title of this very message uses the word it uses. Do not tell anyone yet. Not because you are being punished with secrecy, because you are, right now, in the middle of a repair that requires quiet, the way a wound requires a bandage. Expose it too soon to the wrong air, and it heals slower, if it heals cleanly at all. There is a third layer to all of this, one we have only touched the edges of so far, and it is the layer that actually explains the exact wording of the promise you were given. It is not simply that silence protects the wonder repair, and silence protects the receiving repair. There is a specific mechanism behind why speaking too soon damages a forming reward more than almost anything else could. And once you see it, several things that have confused you about your own past seasons are going to make sudden, complete sense. I am not ready to show you that mechanism yet, and I want to be honest about why. Some things land harder when they arrive at the right point in a message instead of the first point available. You have already done real work tonight, naming two patterns most people never get language for in their entire lives. Let that settle for a moment before the third piece arrives, because the third piece is going to ask something specific of you, and you deserve to receive it with a clear head instead of a rushed one. Before we go there, I want to give you something small and practical to hold on to for the rest of today, because insight without a next step tends to evaporate by tomorrow morning. The next time you notice money arriving in any amount, pause before you assign it anywhere. Let yourself simply notice it for 10 full seconds before your mind starts managing it. That single pause, repeated daily, is the beginning of retraining a loop that took years to build and does not require years to begin loosening. Let this next part be a moment to simply breathe before we go further. You have taken in a great deal in a short amount of time, 2 patterns named, 2 closed doors described, and I do not want to rush you past the weight of that. Let your shoulders drop for a moment. Notice your breath without trying to change it. Whatever you are carrying into tonight, carry it a little lighter for the next few sentences. I think about how differently this season might have felt for you if someone had simply told you these 2 things years ago, not to fix everything overnight, just to hand you the language, so that the years spent confused about your own patterns could have been spent understanding them instead. That is, honestly, most of what this message is trying to be for you tonight, not a magic fix. A mirror held steady long enough for you to actually see what has been happening. If you have made it this far, you are no longer in the category of people who are simply curious about a spiritual message with an interesting title. You are in the category of people who are actually ready to do something different with what they have just heard, and that category is smaller than you think. Most people receive insight and let it evaporate by morning. Something tells me you are not going to let that happen this time. There is a third door still ahead, chosen one, and it is the one that ties everything you have heard so far directly back to the exact words in the title of this message. Before I open that third door, there is a comment I want you to leave, because it belongs exactly here, at the hinge between what you already know and what you are about to know. Place the words, "the third door," beneath this message. Let it be the marker you can scroll back to later, the exact point where the picture became whole. Take a moment to notice what has already shifted in you since the first sentence of this message. 2 patterns you have likely lived inside for years now have names. That alone is not a small thing, even before we go any further. Naming has always been the first act of authority over anything. In every tradition, in every language, in every generation that has taken the inner life seriously. I have noticed something specific happens around this point in a message like this one, and I want to name it, because you may be experiencing it right now without quite having words for it. A kind of quiet urgency, a feeling that you need to remember this, write it down, do something with it immediately, or it will slip away by morning the way most insight usually does. That urgency is not anxiety. It is your own attention, freshly reopened tonight, doing exactly what reopened attention does, noticing and holding on to what matters, instead of letting it drift past unregistered the way it might have a few weeks ago. I want to pause the teaching for a moment and be completely plain with you about something, because it would not be fair to keep going without saying it directly. Everything I have described so far, the quiet drift, the scarcity loop, these are patterns, not prescriptions. I have not yet told you what to actually do about them beyond noticing and naming. That is on purpose. Naming a pattern correctly is most of the battle, but naming alone rarely finishes the work by itself. There is a tool that was built specifically to help someone move through this exact repair, in the exact order this message has been describing. I am not going to spend long on it here, because we are still in the middle of something important, and I do not believe in interrupting a real teaching moment with a sales pitch. But I want to be honest that it exists, because pretending otherwise would not be fair to you. It is a short, guided audio, 7 minutes, meant to be listened to daily, designed around exactly the kind of gentle attention softening we talked about earlier, the practice of letting your focus widen again, the way it used to widen easily as a child. People have been calling it the genius song, mostly because of what it seems to reawaken in the people who use it consistently. There is a second piece as well, a short audio and a small written practice built around the receiving side of this repair, the part that helps loosen the scarcity loop specifically. That one has been called the wealth signal. I am not going to explain either one fully right now. I simply want you to know they exist, in case anything in the next portion of this message makes you want to look them up while it is still fresh in your mind. Both were built in that order, on purpose, because the sequence matters. The wonder has to come back online before the receiving can fully follow it. The same way the shepherd we are about to meet had to be quietly formed before he could actually carry a kingdom without being crushed by it. We will come back to the order later. For now, I simply want you to know both pieces exist, and neither one is required for anything else in this message to be true or useful to you. You do not need either one to receive everything else this message has for you tonight. Everything true and useful here stands on its own, with or without any tool at all. I only mention this now because pretending I have nothing practical to point you toward, when I do, would not be honest. And honesty is the entire foundation this message has been built on from the first sentence. If you want to find either one, it is placed in the description beneath this message and in the comment pinned near the top. Nothing more to it than that. Now let us go back to where we were, because the third door is still waiting, and it explains something the first two doors cannot. Before we go there, I want to acknowledge something plainly, because I think it matters more than most people admit out loud. Some of you have tried things before, meditation apps that sat unused after the second week, gratitude journals that stopped a month in, programs that promised transformation and delivered a folder of unopened emails instead. If that is you, I am not here to tell you that you simply did not try hard enough. Most of those approaches never actually named the two specific closures we named tonight. They asked you to build new habits on top of an attention still drifted and a nervous system still looped, which is a little like trying to build a house on a foundation that keeps quietly shifting underneath it. It is not that you failed. It is that the foundation was never addressed first. Think about how many of those old approaches asked you to simply try harder, journal more consistently, meditate longer, believe more intensely, without ever once asking what was actually closed underneath the trying. Effort applied to the wrong layer produces exhaustion, not change. That is not a character flaw. That is just how layered problems work when only the surface layer gets addressed. I want to say this plainly, because so many people carry a private, unspoken shame about their long list of abandoned attempts. That list is not evidence that you are undisciplined. It is evidence that you have been fighting the right battle with tools built for a different one. The moment the actual foundation gets named, and only then, does the same effort you already have start producing something that finally holds. There is a woman named Priya who told me almost exactly this, that she had tried 4 different approaches over 3 years, each one abandoned within weeks. Each failure adding one more layer of quiet shame on top of the last. What she said changed for her once she understood the quiet drift and the scarcity loop by name was not that the new approach suddenly worked where the others failed. It was that she finally understood why the others never had a real chance to work in the first place. I am not telling you her story to promise you an identical outcome, because every person and every season is different, and anyone who promises you an identical result to someone else is not being honest with you. I am telling you because naming the actual foundation, instead of endlessly rearranging furniture on top of a shifting floor, is usually the difference between another abandoned attempt and something that finally holds. Now, the third door. This is the one that explains the title of this message directly, so listen closely, because I am not going to repeat this part twice. There was a young shepherd, the youngest of several brothers, considered so unlikely a candidate for anything significant that when a prophet came looking for the next king among his family, nobody even thought to call him in from the fields at first. His own father did not think to include him among the sons presented that day. He was anointed privately, in front of only his own family. Oil poured over him in an ordinary room with no crowd, no ceremony beyond what his household could witness. And then he went right back to the sheep the next morning as though nothing had happened. Picture that morning specifically, the oil still faintly on him, maybe still on his father clothes, and by afternoon he is back in the field, counting the same sheep, sleeping under the same sky, telling no one in the village what had happened in that room. No announcement, no procession, no change in his daily labor at all. Years passed. Years of him still tending sheep, still unknown outside his own household, still nowhere near a throne, while the anointing sat quietly inside him, unspoken, unproven, unseen by the wider world. He did not announce it. He did not campaign for it. He carried it the way you are being asked to carry what you are carrying right now, silently, faithfully, through ordinary days that gave no outward sign anything had changed. In those same years, he fought a giant nobody else in the army would face, not because he had decided to finally announce his anointing to the world, but because the moment in front of him required something, and he simply did what the moment required. He was building, the entire time, a track record with himself and with God that no announcement could have built for him. Notice what he did not do in that moment. He did not stand in front of the army and declare himself the anointed future king before facing the giant. He simply picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream, the ordinary tools of an ordinary shepherd, and did the next right thing directly in front of him. The anointing was not the thing that defeated the giant. The years of quiet faithfulness that the anointing had been silently producing were, this is the pattern I keep returning to, again and again, across every version of this story I have ever encountered, in scripture and in ordinary modern lives that echo the same shape. The people who eventually carry the largest visible rewards are almost never the ones who spent their private years talking about what was coming. They are the ones who spent their private years simply doing the next right thing, stone by stone, sheep by sheep, day by ordinary day. When the reward finally did arrive, years later, it did not arrive as a small validation of a claim he had been making all along. It arrived as an entire kingdom, built on a foundation of years nobody saw, years where the only person who knew what was coming was the young man himself and the God who had anointed him. Here is what I want you to notice about that story, because it is the exact shape of what is happening in you right now. The anointing came first, in private, unglamorous, easy to almost forget about during the long, ordinary years that followed. The kingdom came last, publicly, undeniably, in a form far larger than the private moment that started it. And the entire distance between those 2 points was filled with nothing more dramatic than ordinary days, quietly kept. There is an old Hebrew word, damam, that shows up in a well-known verse instructing the reader to be still, to wait patiently. Damam does not simply mean quiet in the sense of making no noise. Its root carries the sense of being still, the way water goes still, the way a storm goes still, an active kind of stillness, not the passive absence of motion, but a deliberate settling. That distinction matters more than it might sound like it does. What you are being asked to do right now is not passive waiting, the kind where you simply do nothing and hope. It is damam, an active stillness, a deliberate settling of your own noise so that something else has room to finish forming underneath it. Think about what actually happens to a body of water when a storm passes. It does not become still because nothing is happening beneath the surface. Currents are still moving. Life is still moving underneath. What settles is the surface chaos that was preventing anyone from seeing the depth clearly. Damam works the same way in a person. The surface noise settles. Underneath, the real work keeps moving, more effectively than it ever could while the surface was churning. This is why speaking too soon does actual, describable damage, not superstitious damage. Every time you narrate a forming thing out loud to an audience not equipped to hold it, you stir the surface again. You reintroduce the very churn that damam was supposed to be settling. The mechanism underneath keeps trying to work, but it keeps getting disturbed before it can finish. The way a photograph exposed to light too many times during development never quite resolves into a clear image. I want to name the pattern plainly one more time, because this is the piece that ties everything together. Speaking of forming thing prematurely does three specific things at once. It gives you a small false sense that the thing is already accomplished, which quietly reduces the pressure that was supposed to carry you to finish it. It reintroduces surface noise into a process that needed depth, stillness to complete. And it exposes something fragile to reactions, doubts, and opinions from people who were never given the context to respond to it wisely. 3 real costs, not one vague superstition. Here is your contrast for this final piece, and I want you to hold on to it carefully, because it ties everything else together. You are not hiding a secret out of fear. You are keeping a covenant in silence, the same covenant the shepherd kept through every unseen year before the kingdom arrived. Fear hides because it is afraid of being found out. Covenant keeps quiet because it understands the value of what it is protecting. This is why the title of this very message says what it says. Do not tell anyone yet, not as a superstition, not as an arbitrary rule, as the same instruction given to everyone who has ever carried something real before its time, across every generation that has ever taken a promise seriously enough to protect it properly. Let me make this practical, because a teaching without an application tends to fade by the time you reach the parking lot, or in this case, by the time you close this message and pick up whatever is waiting for your attention next. Here is what Dhammam looks like in an ordinary day, not a monastery, not a mountaintop, an ordinary Tuesday. It looks like catching yourself mid-sentence, about to explain a decision you have not fully made yet to someone who asked out of curiosity rather than care, and choosing a shorter answer instead. It looks like noticing the urge to post an update about something still forming and letting that urge pass without acting on it. It looks like sitting with a good feeling for a few extra seconds before reaching for your phone to tell someone about it. None of that requires a retreat, a ritual, or a special posture. It requires noticing the moment the urge to expose something arrives and choosing, on purpose, a few more seconds of held quiet before deciding whether speaking is actually wise. Most of the time, chosen one, you will find that the urge passes, and what is left is simply the thing itself, still forming, still safe, still yours. This is also where a pattern worth naming shows up again and again in the people who navigate this season well. They are not the loudest people in the room. They are rarely the ones announcing plans before the plans exist. I have watched this pattern repeat itself enough times, across enough different lives, that I no longer think it is coincidence. The people who receive the largest, most durable rewards are almost always the ones who said the least about them while they were still forming. If this has landed the way I think it has, place the words, "I will be still," beneath this message. Let it be your own Dhammam, your own active stillness, marked in this moment before you carry it forward. Chosen one, you have now heard all 3 closures, named clearly in the order they needed to be named. The quiet drift, closing your wonder, the scarcity loop, closing your receiving, and the need for Dhammam, the active stillness that protects both repairs while they finish their work in the dark, unseen soil, where all real growth actually happens. Let me give you the contrasts together, all 3, because hearing them stacked will make the whole shape of tonight click into place in a way that hearing them separately across the last while may not have fully allowed. You are not lazy. You are drifted. You are not ungrateful. You are looped. You are not hiding out of fear. You are keeping a covenant in silence, the way every person who has ever carried something real has kept it before its appointed time. 3 patterns, 3 names, 1 underlying repair, unfolding in the correct order, protected by the same quiet discipline that has shaped every reward worth having since the beginning of recorded time. That is not a coincidence of language. That is a pattern that has survived because it is simply how forming things actually work. In gardens, in pregnancies, in callings, in kingdoms, And in whatever it is you are carrying tonight, I want to offer one more honest qualifier here, because I think you have earned plain speech more than polished speech at this point in the message. None of what I have described guarantees a specific date or a specific shape for what is coming to you. I do not know your circumstances, and anyone claiming to know your exact timeline is not being honest with you. What I do know from watching this pattern again and again is the sequence, and the sequence is what protects the outcome, whatever its final shape turns out to be. There is a kind of person this message tends to reach more than any other, and I want to describe them for a moment, because you may recognize yourself in the description. They are not new to faith. They have usually been walking with God for years, sometimes decades, quietly, without much fanfare, doing the next right thing without needing applause for it. They are the ones least likely to brag about a promise, and most likely to actually keep one. If that sounds like you, this message found the right person. If you have been carrying this quietly for a while already, before you ever found this message tonight, I want you to hear something directly. You were not wrong to wait this long. Whatever frustration has built up in you during the waiting, whatever nights you have questioned whether any of it was even real, none of that waiting was wasted. It was, in fact, exactly the practice this whole message has been describing, even before you had language for what you were practicing. Place the words, "the wait was not wasted" beneath this message, if that landed somewhere true in you. Let it mark the exact moment you stopped apologizing, even privately, for how long this season has taken. Notice something about yourself right now, in this exact moment. Most people who clicked on a message with this title were looking for a quick spiritual high, a feeling that would fade by tomorrow afternoon. You have received something else tonight, something with actual shape and structure, something you could explain to another person if you needed to. That is rare. That is not an accident. That is the mark of someone this message was actually meant to reach. I know something else about you, something specific enough that I want to say it out loud instead of leaving it implied. There has been a particular person in your life lately, someone close, someone who loves you, who keeps asking a version of the same question. So, what is the plan? So, what happens next? So when is this actually going to happen? And every time they ask, something in your chest tightens just slightly, because you do not yet have language good enough to explain what you are actually carrying. Tonight you have that language, not to hand to them necessarily, because remember, discernment matters more than disclosure, but for yourself, so that the tightening in your chest can finally rest on something solid instead of a vague, wordless unease you have been carrying alone. Here is a second layer to the Hebrew word we already named, because it deserves a fuller picture. In the same family of words used for stillness, there is a related sense of waiting that carries the idea of hoping with expectation. Not the passive hope of someone who has given up and is simply enduring, but the active hope of someone who has done the inner work and is now genuinely watching for the ripening to complete. That is the posture Dhammam is actually describing, not resignation, expectant, active watching, dressed in quiet clothes. If you have been holding your breath a little through this part of the message, you are not the only one. This is usually the point where people either close the message because it asked something of them they were not ready to hear, or they lean in closer because they finally feel understood in a way nothing else lately has managed to do. If you are still here, you already know which one you are. Let me tell you what I have watched happen again and again in the pattern of people who take this seriously instead of nodding along and forgetting it by dinner. They stop narrating, not dramatically, not with some big announcement about going quiet, just a gradual practiced reduction in how much of their forming life gets handed out in casual conversation. And within a relatively short season, most of them report the exact same strange sensation, a kind of internal pressure finally building instead of leaking, the way a river builds real force once it stops being diverted into a dozen small streams. I want to be careful here, because I do not want to turn silence into a new performance, a new thing to be anxious about doing correctly. This is not about becoming secretive or withdrawn as a personality. It is about being intentional with one specific category of information, the things still forming, the things not yet ready for outside opinions. Everything else in your life can stay exactly as open and connected as it already is. This is a narrow, specific discipline, not a wholesale personality change. There is a specific moment many of you will recognize, and I want to describe it precisely, because precision is what makes a message like this one feel less like a broad guess and more like it actually knows you. It is the moment right after you have made a private decision, alone, in your car, or in the shower, or lying awake at 2 in the morning, and the very next thought is, who do I need to tell about this? Notice that reflex the next time it arrives. It is not wrong to want to share your life with people you love. It is simply worth noticing how automatic and how immediate the urge to narrate really is, and how rarely you have ever paused to ask whether this particular thing was actually ready to be spoken yet. Place the words, "The harvest is quiet," beneath this message, if you are ready to carry what you have heard tonight the way it deserves to be carried, silently, faithfully, without needing anyone else witness to make it feel real. Before we move there, take one more slow breath with me. You have covered real ground tonight, and the next section is going to ask you to look honestly at a few more places where these patterns show up in daily life. The tired excuses, the well-worn doubts, the specific moments where the old loop tries to reassert itself. That honesty is not meant to shame you. It is meant to finish the work of naming, so that nothing important gets left in the dark, where it can quietly keep operating unnoticed. We still have real ground to cover, chosen one. There is a fourth piece waiting, the piece that shows you exactly how to move from understanding these 3 patterns to actually living differently inside them, starting with the very first thing you will do the moment this message ends. Stay with me. What is coming next is not more explanation. It is the doorway into action. Let us look honestly, for a moment, at the places these patterns still try to talk their way back into your life, because naming them once is not the same as being finished with them. They do not disappear the moment you hear a teaching. They simply lose their disguise, and disguises, once removed, tend to keep trying new ones. The quiet drift will try to convince you that softening your attention is a luxury you cannot afford right now, that you are too busy, too behind, too responsible for a few quiet minutes a day. The scarcity loop will try to convince you that noticing a good thing without immediately managing it is careless, even irresponsible. Both arguments will sound reasonable. Both are the loop defending its own territory. Watch for a third argument too, quieter than the other two, the one that says, "This is interesting, but I will start next week, once things calm down." Things rarely calm down on their own. The mind waiting for a calmer week to begin healing is usually the exact mind that most needs to begin today, precisely because it has been telling itself that same sentence for longer than it wants to admit. I am not saying this to pressure you into anything. There is no countdown attached to any of this, no artificial deadline manufactured to create urgency where none actually exists. I am saying it because I have watched enough people delay a small, easy first step waiting for ideal conditions that never arrived, and I would rather tell you that honestly now than let you discover it the same way they did, months later, wondering where the time went. I want to say something to the part of you that is already skeptical of everything I have described tonight, because I know that part exists in you, and it exists in me too whenever I encounter a teaching that asks something of me. Skepticism is not the enemy here. A healthy skepticism is actually a sign of the very attention we have been talking about reopening, a mind awake enough to test what it hears instead of swallowing it whole. So test this. Do not take my word for any of it. Notice, over the next few days, whether the flinch I described actually shows up when something good arrives. Notice whether you catch yourself wanting to narrate a forming plan before it is ready. The patterns either show up in your actual life or they do not, and you are the only one who can verify that, not me. There is another honest voice worth naming here, the one that says, "This all sounds nice, but I have prayed about this exact thing for years, and nothing has changed. So what makes tonight different?" I do not have a clever answer that erases that frustration, and I am not going to pretend I do. Years of unanswered prayer are real, and they deserve to be honored, not talked over with a tidy explanation. What I will say is this: prayer and pattern are not competitors. Naming the quiet drift and the scarcity loop does not replace prayer, and it does not suggest your years of asking were wasted or misdirected. It simply names one practical layer that may have been quietly working against the very answer you were praying for. The way a closed window can block a breeze, even in a room where every door has been thrown wide open in faith. If you have been the kind of person who feels unworthy of a big answer, who quietly assumes good things are for other people and not really for you, I want to speak to that directly for a moment, because it deserves direct address rather than a passing mention. That feeling is common enough that I would guess close to half the people hearing this message carry some version of it, and it almost always traces back further than this particular season, often into years or even decades of being taught, directly or indirectly, that wanting more for yourself was somehow selfish or unfaithful. I want to say plainly that unworthiness is not humility, no matter how much it can look like humility from the outside. Humility says, "I did not earn this on my own merit." Unworthiness says, "I should not have this at all." Those are two very different postures, and only one of them is actually consistent with how provision has ever worked in any tradition that takes grace seriously. You were never meant to earn the reward through performance. You were meant to receive it through readiness. And readiness is exactly what tonight has been building in you. I want to gently name where that unworthiness usually comes from, because most people carrying it were never actually taught it directly. It is rarely a single sentence someone said to you. It is usually a slow accumulation, 100 small moments across childhood and adulthood where wanting more for yourself got quietly labeled as too much, too greedy, too proud. Nobody sat you down and taught you this as a doctrine. You absorbed it, the way a plant absorbs whatever is in the soil around it, without choosing to, simply because it was there. Naming that absorption is not the same as blaming anyone for it. Most of the people who planted those messages in you were themselves simply repeating what had been planted in them. Generations of quiet scarcity passed down like an inheritance nobody asked for. Tonight is one of the moments that inheritance can actually be interrupted, not through blame, but through the simple act of finally seeing it clearly enough to set it down. Let this next part be a slower one, because you have taken in a great deal tonight, and I do not want to rush past the weight of it. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench, if it has been clenched, which, for many people listening to a message like this one, it has been, without them even noticing. There is no urgency in this next part. Nothing here is racing toward a deadline. Take these next few minutes the way you would take a walk with no particular destination, simply present, simply here, simply listening. I want to tell you something about myself, plainly, because I think honesty matters more right here than it does almost anywhere else in this message. I do not have this fully figured out either. I still catch the scarcity loop trying to run in me some weeks. I still notice the quiet drift creeping back in during seasons of high stress. This is not a message from someone who has arrived and is now simply reporting back from the other side. It is a message from someone walking the same road, a little further along in some places, still stumbling in others. If any part of this message has felt like it was speaking only to people who have it all together, I want to correct that impression directly. This is not for people who have it all together. It is for people who are honest enough to admit they do not, and willing enough to keep walking anyway. There is something I have not said yet that I think needs saying plainly. Not everyone who hears this message is meant to act on it right now. Some of you are in a season where this is not the peace you need yet, and that is completely fine. If nothing in tonight has landed as true for you, there is no failure in that. This word simply was not for you at this particular moment, and I would rather tell you that honestly than pretend every message is for everyone. But if something in you has been nodding along this whole time, if some part of you has been quietly saying, "Yes, that is me, that is my season," then what I am about to describe is for you specifically, and I want you to receive it as such. Picture, for a moment, a scene about a year from now. Not vague, not general, one specific afternoon. You are sitting at a table, maybe your own kitchen table, and in front of you is something you have been quietly working toward, now actually finished, actually real, actually yours. There is late afternoon light coming through a window somewhere nearby, the kind that makes ordinary rooms look a little more golden than they usually do. You are not dressed for an occasion. This is not a celebration with balloons and an audience. It is an ordinary Tuesday or Wednesday, and that ordinariness is exactly what makes it feel so real, so unforced, so unlike the performed milestones people usually imagine when they picture their future. Maybe it is a number in an account that used to feel impossible to imagine. Maybe it is a decision you finally made without months of anxious circling first. Maybe it is simply the sensation, unfamiliar and welcome, of opening a bill or a bank statement without your stomach tightening before you even look. Let yourself see whichever version feels most true for your own life. Notice your hands in that scene. Notice that they are steady, not gripping anything too tightly, not bracing for the number to be wrong. Notice your breathing, slow, unhurried, the breathing of someone who has stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is not a fantasy detached from your actual life. This is what a mind free of the scarcity loop actually feels like while handling completely ordinary financial reality. Stay in that scene a little longer. Notice that nobody is watching you in this moment. No audience, no announcement, just you, alone at that table, quietly aware that something shifted, and that the shift feels less like a windfall and more like a homecoming, like returning to a way of relating to provision that somehow always belonged to you, underneath the years of fear. Here is the gap, because every honest vision needs one named clearly instead of left to float unspoken. That table exists somewhere ahead of you. Right now, tonight, you are somewhere behind it, still catching the flinch sometimes, still narrating things you probably should have held quietly, still learning the shape of Dhammam, one imperfect day at a time. The distance between where you are and that table is not primarily a distance of money. It is a distance of practiced calm, practiced presence, practiced receiving. That is the bridge, chosen one, not more hustle, not more anxious effort thrown at a problem that was never really about effort in the first place. A specific practiced return to presence, applied daily, small enough to actually sustain, aimed precisely at the two closures we named tonight. Here is a comment worth placing now, while that table is still vivid in your mind. Write the words, "I see the table" beneath this message, not as a wish sent into the void, but as a marker, a way of telling your own future self that tonight was the night the picture became specific instead of vague. I want to address something that tends to surface right around this point in a message like this one. A quiet voice, asking whether picturing a future like that is somehow presumptuous, somehow getting ahead of what has actually been promised. I do not think it is. Every serious tradition of faith includes some form of holding a picture of the promise before its arrival, not as demand, but as posture, an active kind of expectant waiting that looks remarkably like the Dhammam we already named. Vision is not the opposite of humility. Vision held loosely, without gripping, without demanding a date, is simply one more form of active stillness. I want to lead you through something now, briefly, right here, before we go any further. Not a long exercise, just a few minutes, because I believe insight lands deeper when the body gets to participate in it, not just the mind. Wherever you are right now, if it is safe to do so, let your shoulders drop an inch further than they already have. Unclench anything in your jaw or your hands that has been quietly tight without your full awareness. You do not need to close your eyes if you are somewhere that makes that unsafe. Simply soften your gaze and let your breathing slow by a small, natural margin. Now picture a door, plain, unremarkable, the kind of door you might pass 100 times without noticing. This door represents the version of you standing in the Kairos room, still waiting, still forming, the version we have spent this whole message describing. See it clearly for a moment, ordinary, unhurried, simply there. Now watch the door open, slowly, without force. The way a door opens when nothing on the other side is rushing toward you, only waiting. Notice what waits on the other side is not a stranger. It is you, the same you, but visibly lighter, visibly more awake, carrying the same face with less weight behind the eyes. Here is the reframe I want you to hold on to from this image. The door was never locked against you. It was simply waiting for the version of you who could walk through it calmly instead of clawing at the handle in a panic. That calmer version is not a stranger you have to become. It is a version of you that has been waiting quietly on the other side of your own practiced stillness the entire time. Let that image settle into your body for a moment. Notice where you feel it. Maybe a loosening in your chest. Maybe a small, unexpected exhale. Wherever you feel it, place a hand there gently if you can, just for a few seconds, and let that physical sensation become the anchor. You can return to any time this week when the old patterns try to reassert themselves. A hand on the chest, a slower breath, a quiet reminder that the door is already open. Stay with that hand on your chest a moment longer. This small gesture is not decoration. It is teaching your body a shortcut back to this exact state, so that later this week, when the scarcity loop flares up over a bill, or the quiet drift pulls your attention back into blank exhaustion, you have a physical doorway back to tonight. Not just a memory of an idea, but a felt sense your body already knows how to find again. Notice, too, that nothing about this exercise required anything outside yourself. No purchase, no special location, no permission from anyone else. That matters because it means what has shifted in you these last few minutes belongs to you completely, regardless of anything else that happens after this message ends tonight. If you felt something shift during that, even something small, place the words, "The door is open," beneath this message. Let that be today, date marker, the day you stopped picturing the door as locked. We are close now to something I want to give you plainly, without any more build-up, because you have earned plain speech at this point in the message. If none of what we have covered tonight moves anywhere beyond understanding, if it stays only as an interesting idea you heard once, it will do for you exactly what every other interesting idea you have ever heard has done: fade by the weekend. What actually moves a pattern from understanding into change is repetition, small and daily, aimed precisely at the closure it is meant to reopen. That is the entire logic behind the two tools mentioned earlier in this message: Nothing more mysterious than that. A few minutes a day, aimed at the wonder first, then the receiving, in the correct order, protected by the same quiet discipline we have spent this whole message naming. Think about how a muscle actually changes shape, not through a single hard workout, however intense, but through consistent, moderate repetition over weeks and months, each session small enough to sustain, each one building on the last. Attention and receiving work the same way. A single powerful insight, even one as clarifying as tonight has hopefully been, functions like one hard workout. It matters, but it does not by itself reshape anything permanently. What reshapes a pattern is the daily return. This is, honestly, why so many people who have real breakthroughs in a single emotional moment still find themselves back in the same old patterns within a matter of weeks. The insight was real. It simply never had a structure to repeat itself in, so it faded the way any unused insight eventually fades, crowded out by the next demand on your attention. There is a woman mentioned briefly in an old account of a birth that changed everything for the people around her, and one detail about her has always stayed with me more than almost anything else in that story. While everyone around her was talking, marveling, spreading the news to anyone who would listen, she did something different. She kept these things and pondered them quietly in her own heart. Everyone else narrated. She treasured. That single detail, easy to skip past in a familiar story, is one of the clearest pictures of Dhammam I know of. Not because she had nothing to say, because she understood, somehow, that some things are meant to be turned over quietly first, held, examined, allowed to settle, before they are ever handed to anyone else to hold. I think about her often when I think about what tonight is actually asking of you. Not silence as suppression, silence as treasuring. There is a difference between a person who says nothing because they are afraid and a person who says nothing because they understand the value of what is being formed in them, and they are simply not finished holding it yet. Repetition is what turns understanding into an actual, lived pattern, instead of a nice idea remembered fondly for a week and then forgotten. This is true of every meaningful change I have ever watched happen in a person, spiritual or otherwise. Nobody transforms through a single insight, however powerful. People transform through what they return to, daily, deliberately, long after the initial excitement of the insight has faded into ordinary life. This is precisely why a short, structured daily practice matters more than another hour of teaching would. You already have the teaching. What you need now is a small, repeatable action that keeps pointing your attention back toward the wonder and the calm receiving, day after day, until the pattern stops, requiring conscious effort, and simply becomes how you move through an ordinary Tuesday. Here is what you now know that you did not know at the start of this message. You know why the wonder went quiet, and that it can return. You know why receiving has felt harder than it should, and that the loop causing it can loosen. You know why silence has been asked of you, and that it was never punishment, only protection for something still forming. The tool this message keeps returning to gives you a structured, daily way to practice the exact 3 things we have spent tonight, naming the soft attention that reopens, wonder, the calm, receiving that interrupts the loop, and the quiet consistency that Dhammam has always required. It does not replace any of the inner work you have already begun tonight simply by listening this closely. It gives that inner work a daily home to return to. Whatever you decide to do next, the naming itself has already changed something in you tonight. That much is already true, regardless of anything else that happens after this message ends. But there is one more thing worth saying before we go further. Something almost nobody says out loud in messages shaped like this one. Everything you have heard so far is real. And it is also only half of why this particular delay has felt so specific, so personal, so exactly shaped to your own story. There is a piece of this that goes deeper than pattern and mechanism into something closer to design. I am not ready to explain that piece yet either, and I want to be honest about why. One more time. Some truths need the ground already broken before they can be planted without bouncing off hard soil. You have spent this entire message breaking ground, patiently, honestly, staying present through parts that asked something real of you. What comes in a few minutes deserves that same soft, ready ground, not the same ground you had at the very first sentence tonight. If you have felt your understanding of your own life sharpen tonight, even a little, place the words "I am ready" beneath this message. Not ready for everything to be perfect. Ready for the next honest thing this message has to say. Here is something you now know plainly, without any decoration, that you did not know when this message began. 15 minutes ago, you did not have language for why the wonder in you went quiet, why receiving has felt harder than logic says it should, or why the specific instruction to stay silent kept surfacing in your own private thoughts before you ever found this message. Now you do. That is not a small shift. That is the exact kind of shift that changes how a person walks through the rest of their week, and often the rest of their season. Here is what all of this actually gives you, said as plainly as I can manage. It gives you your attention back, the wide, curious, present kind you had before years of stress narrowed it into something duller. It gives you a way to notice the difference between wise caution and trained fear, so that money stops being a subject that tightens your chest before you have even opened the statement. And it gives you a reason, finally, to stop apologizing for the silence you have been keeping, because now you know exactly what that silence has been protecting. And here is who this makes you, underneath everything else said tonight. You are not someone God overlooked while handing out rewards to louder, more visible people. You are someone trusted with a quieter process, a longer formation, a kind of readiness that cannot be rushed without being ruined. That is not a lesser calling. In every tradition, in every generation, the quiet ones were always the ones history remembered longest, precisely because what they carried had time to become something real before the world ever saw it. Clarity is not the same as completion. What you understand now is true. What remains is simply the choosing, day by day, to walk in it. There is one more small thing worth carrying with you into what comes next. Everything true tonight, the naming of the quiet drift, the naming of the scarcity loop, the discovery of Damam, all of it remains true and useful, whether or not you ever pick up a single tool mentioned in this message. Nothing that follows changes what has already been given to you freely tonight. What follows is simply a door for those who want a structured, daily way to keep walking through what has already opened. Take one more slow breath here, chosen one, before we go on. What comes next is not more teaching. It is the door itself, described plainly, honestly, with nothing hidden and nothing exaggerated, the way everything else tonight has been described. Chosen one, everything that has been building tonight, the wonder returning, the receiving loosening, the discipline of active stillness, all of it points toward one door, still standing slightly ajar. Not the door in the vision we walked through together, a door in this actual room right now, for the ones ready to walk all the way through instead of only imagining it. This is the part of the message where I stop teaching and start showing you exactly what I have been quietly pointing toward this entire time. I am not going to dress it up as more than it is, and I am not going to pretend it is less than it is either. I am simply going to describe it plainly, the way everything else tonight has been described. Remember the seed we named earlier, the one that names your first repair. It has a home now, a specific daily practice built to reawaken it. This is the piece I mentioned earlier and asked you to hold in the back of your mind. It is time to bring it forward fully. It is called the Genius Song. 7 minutes, guided, spoken, and layered with sound, meant to be listened to once a day, ideally somewhere quiet, though it works even with headphones in the middle of an ordinary busy afternoon. It was built around one purpose only, guiding your attention back toward the soft, open, curious noticing we described earlier. The state a child moves through the world in without ever trying to. I want to be precise about what this is and what it is not, because precision is the only kind of honesty worth offering you at this point. This is not a claim of measured brainwaves, and I am not going to tell you some laboratory recorded your mind changing shape while you listened. That would not be true, and I would rather undersell this to you honestly than oversell it with language that sounds impressive and is not actually accurate. What it is, plainly, is a structured, guided relaxation practice, built around the same principle we spent the whole first part of this message naming. Stress and repetition dull attention over years. Deliberate, guided softening can help that attention widen again. Many people who use it daily report noticing small things again, a kind of ease returning to ordinary moments that had gone flat for a long time. That is the honest claim, no larger and no smaller than what it actually is. The 7 minutes move through 6 simple movements, each one building gently on the last. It opens by guiding your breath into a slower, steadier rhythm than the pace most days run at. From there, it walks your attention through a series of soft, unhurried, noticing prompts. Small sensory details, the kind a child would notice without effort, gently reintroduced to a mind that has forgotten how easy that noticing used to be. Partway through, it introduces a short, repeated phrase, quiet and simple, meant to anchor the state you are building so you can find your way back to it more easily each time you return to the practice. It closes by inviting you to carry a small piece of that openness forward into the rest of your day, rather than leaving it behind the moment the audio ends. People who have used it consistently, according to what the people who built it have reported, describe the same handful of things again and again. Mornings that feel less foggy. A returning sense of noticing small good things without having to force it. A quieter mind by the end of the first week, more noticeable by the end of the first month. I want to say plainly that these are reports, not guarantees, and your experience may look different, faster in some ways, slower in others, because every person and every season is different. There is a short testimonial worth sharing here, offered by someone who used this practice daily for about 6 weeks. She described it simply. She said she stopped feeling like she was watching her own life through glass and started feeling like she was actually standing inside it again. She did not describe a dramatic overnight shift. She described a slow, steady return to presence, the kind that sneaks up on you until one day you notice it has already arrived. Another listener, a man in his 50s who told me he had not cried at anything in years, said the strangest moment for him came about 10 days in, standing in his own backyard, noticing the specific color of the sky at that hour, the way he apparently used to as a boy. He said it was such a small thing to be moved by, and that was exactly what moved him, the sheer smallness of it, the sense that some quiet, forgotten part of him had simply been waiting to be let back in. I share both of these not as proof that guarantees an identical experience for you, because I cannot promise that, but because the shape of what they describe, small noticings returning, an ease settling back into ordinary moments, is a shape reported often enough by people using this practice consistently that it has become the honest, expected pattern rather than the rare exception. Now, remember the second closure we named, the scarcity loop. And remember why the sequence matters so much. Reopening wonder without addressing the loop underneath your relationship to receiving is only half the repair. A mind newly capable of noticing good things still needs to actually let them in without flinching. That is where the second piece comes in, and it does not arrive alone. It arrives only after the first has done its work, because trying to loosen the loop before the wonder has returned is, honestly, asking the second repair to do a job it was never built to do by itself. This is why these two were never meant to be separated, and why what follows only makes sense once you understand the order. A repaired capacity to notice, and only then a repaired capacity to receive. Reversed or attempted in isolation, neither one holds the way it does in sequence. Here is the second piece, spoken of gently, because it deals with something more tender than the first. It is called the wealth signal, a 5-minute guided audio paired with a short written practice, 9 words in total, meant to be spoken quietly to yourself, in the moments money tends to trigger the old bracing we described earlier. Again, I want to be precise. This is not a claim that speaking 9 words changes numbers in an account. Nobody honest would tell you that, and I am not telling you that. What the audio and the 9 words are built to do is interrupt the narrowed, threat-scanning attention the scarcity loop runs on, replacing it gently and repeatedly with a calmer, more receptive posture toward money as it actually arrives in your life, in whatever amount it arrives. The 5 minutes move through 5 simple movements, beginning where the first practice leaves off, with the same slowed breath and settled attention, then guiding you specifically toward the sensation of receiving without bracing, the exact felt experience we practiced together a few minutes ago with your hand resting on your chest. It closes with the 9-word practice, short enough to remember without effort, meant to be spoken quietly the next time you notice money arriving, or the next time an old fear about money starts to tighten in your chest. Many people who have used both practices together in the sequence they were built for describe a similar shift to the one described in the earlier testimonial, but aimed specifically at money. Less flinching when a bill arrives. A calmer read of their own bank balance. Decisions made from clarity rather than panic, more often than not. Again, these are reported experiences, not guaranteed outcomes. And I would rather tell you that honestly than promise you a number I cannot actually promise. One listener who works in a field with unpredictable monthly income described the shift this way. She said the number in her account had not actually changed much in the first few weeks, but her relationship to checking it had changed almost immediately. She stopped opening her banking app with her stomach already tight. She started opening it the way she might check the weather, curious rather than braced. She said that a loan was worth more to her than she expected going in, because the tightness had been so constant for so long that she had stopped noticing it as unusual. I want to underline something in her account because it matters for how you hold your own expectations here. The number changing and the relationship to the number changing are two different things, and this practice speaks directly and honestly only to the second one. What tends to follow from a calmer relationship to money, more often than most people expect, is that the first one shifts too, not because of anything magical, but because clearer decisions made from a calmer mind simply tend to compound better over time than anxious decisions made from a narrowed one. Here is where these two waves meet, chosen one, because I do not want you to think of them as two separate purchases solving two separate problems. The Genius Song alone is a real, complete practice. It does real work, reopening the wonder we spent so long describing tonight, and it stands entirely on its own even if nothing else ever follows it. But used alone, without the second piece, there remains a specific plateau most people eventually notice. The wonder returns, the noticing sharpens, and still, underneath it, the old bracing around receiving can remain largely untouched, because that first practice was never built to address that particular closure. It was built for the first door, not the second. That plateau is not a flaw in the practice. It is simply the honest shape of what one tool, built for one repair, can and cannot do by itself. The door it opens is real. There is simply a second door standing just beside it, closed until the second piece joins the first. This is the exact shape of what this whole message has been describing since the first sentence. Two things switched off in sequence, both needing to be switched back on in the correct order for the whole picture to actually complete itself. Wonder first, then receiving, both together, doing what neither one fully does alone. Before we go further, place a comment beneath this message with the words, "both doors," if what I just described matches something you have already sensed in your own life, a returning sense of noticing, paired with an old fear around receiving that has not yet fully loosened. Marking that recognition now will matter in a few minutes when we talk about how these two pieces actually come together. This is the exact hinge point Matthew once wrote about, that a person must become like a little child before they are able to fully receive what has been prepared for them. I used to hear that instruction as a comment on innocence, and only innocence. Sitting with it longer, I think it is also a comment on sequence. The child mind wakes first, the receiving opens after, wonder before capacity. That order was never arbitrary. It is simply how this particular door has always worked, in every generation that has ever taken it seriously. Think back to the shepherd we spent time with earlier, and notice something about the shape of his own story that mirrors this exact sequence. The private anointing came first, an inner reality nobody else could see. The years of quiet, ordinary faithfulness came next, wonder and attention still intact enough to notice a giant nobody else would face. Only after both of those had done their work did the kingdom, the actual visible receiving, finally arrive. Wonder, then formation, then receiving, never receiving first. Place the words wonder, then receiving beneath this message. If that sequence, seen now across the shepherd story, the seed metaphor, and the teaching tonight, has finally clicked into place as one coherent shape instead of three separate ideas. I want to name plainly what happens for someone who tries to skip straight to the second piece without the first, because I think it will save you some frustration if you ever hear this teaching applied out of order somewhere else. Trying to calm a scarcity response before the underlying attention has widened again is a little like trying to convince a person still standing in a burning room that the fire is not real. The calming words are true. They cannot fully land in a mind still narrowed by alarm. Widen the attention first, and the calming has somewhere real to land. This is also why so many affirmation-style practices around money fail to hold for people who try them in isolation. The words are often fine, sometimes even beautiful. What is usually missing is the wider, more present attention needed to actually receive them as true, rather than as one more thing being said at a mind too narrowed by old fear to fully absorb it. Sequence, not sincerity, is usually the missing ingredient. Here is the part I want to be most careful and most honest about, because it is the part easiest to overstate. Neither of these practices is a substitute for wise financial decisions, medical care if you need it, or the ordinary work God asks each of us to do in our own seasons. They are not medicine, they are not therapy, though many people find them a helpful companion alongside whatever else they are already doing. They are, simply and precisely, a short daily mindset and relaxation practice aimed at two specific patterns this message has spent a long time naming honestly. If you have been waiting for me to promise you a specific dollar amount, a specific date, or a guarantee that your circumstances will transform in a fixed number of days, I am not going to give you that, because nobody honest can give you that, and I would rather lose your trust by telling you the truth than keep it by telling you something comfortable and false. What I can tell you, plainly, is what these two practices are built to do, and what people who use them consistently tend to report: a calmer mind, a wider attention, a steadier relationship with receiving, whatever form that receiving eventually takes in your particular life. That is the honest offer. And I think, once you have heard everything this message has said tonight, it is enough. Let us talk plainly now about how to actually receive both of these, because I know some of you have been wondering, quietly, whether this is something simple or something complicated, and I want to remove any confusion before we go further. There is no complicated system here, no tiers of membership, no subscription that renews without your knowledge. Just two practices, clearly described, offered honestly, with the details laid out plainly in the next few minutes. I want to address the skeptical voice one more time before we go further, because I think it deserves a second, more direct answer now that you know exactly what is actually being described. If your honest reaction is that this still sounds too simple to matter, 7 minutes of audio, 5 more minutes and 9 words, I understand that reaction completely. I had a version of it myself the first time something this simple was ever explained to me clearly. Here is what I would say back to that reaction, plainly. Simple is not the same as small. A daily practice that takes 12 minutes total and actually gets repeated every day will, over a season, outperform an elaborate system that gets abandoned after 2 weeks every single time. The people who benefit most from something like this are rarely the people looking for the most complicated intervention available. They are the people willing to actually do a small thing consistently, which turns out to be rarer and more powerful than most people expect. I also want to say honestly who this is probably not for, because a message this long deserves that kind of honesty somewhere near the end. If you are looking for a guaranteed financial outcome, a specific number by a specific date, this is not that, and nothing honest could be that. If you are in a season where you need urgent professional support, medical, financial, or otherwise, please seek that support directly. This practice is not a replacement for necessary professional care. It is a daily companion for the mindset layer underneath many of the patterns we named tonight, nothing more and nothing less. If, after hearing all of that plainly, something in you still feels like this is the door you have been standing in front of, then let us talk plainly about what receiving it actually looks like. Before we get there, one more honest word. I do not know whether both of these are right for you specifically. Only you know your own season, your own resources, and your own sense of whether this particular door is the one meant for you right now. Nothing about what follows is meant to pressure you past that discernment. It is simply meant to give you clear, honest information so that whatever you decide it with full understanding of what is actually being offered. Place the words stacked in order beneath this message right here, at exactly this point, if you now understand why these two pieces were built to work in sequence rather than as two unrelated options on a shelf. That understanding is the actual heart of everything explained tonight, more than any single detail still to come. Delivery, for both pieces, works the same simple way. Everything arrives by email within minutes of being requested. Nothing physical, nothing shipped, nothing to wait days for. Both the audio practices and the written pieces that accompany them live in a private, simple page you can return to anytime, on your phone or on a computer, whenever you want to listen again. There is no ongoing subscription, attached to either piece. This is a one-time arrangement, paid once, kept permanently, with nothing set up to charge you again later without your direct choice. I want to be plain about that, because so many things marketed as simple daily practices turn out to be recurring charges buried in fine print, and that is not what this is. The exact details of what is included and what it costs are laid out clearly in a moment, in the plainest language I can manage, because you deserve to know exactly what you are looking at before any decision is asked of you. Nothing about the next few minutes is going to hide the number from you or dance around it. You will hear it directly, stated once, clearly, the way an honest offer should be stated. I know there is one more question sitting quietly underneath everything I have said so far, and I want to answer it directly, instead of letting it linger unanswered. Why two separate pieces at all, instead of one single practice that handles everything at once? It is a fair question, and it deserves a fair answer. The honest answer is that wonder and receiving are simply two different closures, formed differently, held differently, and reopened differently. A single practice trying to address both at once tends to do a shallow job of each, the way a single tool trying to be both a hammer and a screwdriver ends up doing neither job particularly well. Two focused practices, used in the correct sequence, do each job properly, and the second becomes far more effective once the first has already done its work. There is a second, smaller question some of you are probably asking too, whether it is really necessary to use both, or whether the first one alone might be enough for your particular season. Here is the honest answer to that one as well. The Genius song stands completely on its own, and for someone whose primary struggle is the drifted, dulled attention we spent so long naming, it may be genuinely enough by itself. For someone whose primary struggle sits more in the fear and bracing around money and receiving, the wealth signal will do very little good without the wonder already reopened underneath it. The way we already described, only you can honestly assess which closure feels heavier in your own life right now, and there is no wrong answer here, only an honest one. Place a comment with the words, "the full path," beneath this message right here, and hold that phrase in mind, because that is exactly what we turn to next. The complete picture of what is actually included, what it costs, and how it is protected if it turns out not to be the right fit for you after all. Everything else tonight has been building toward this exact moment, chosen one, not a sales pitch. A clear, honest accounting of what stands between you and both doors, laid out plainly, the way everything else in this message has been laid out from the very first sentence. Some of you are already wondering something specific, and I want to answer it before moving into the plain details, because an unanswered question tends to sit louder in the mind than any answer that follows it. If these two pieces are meant to work together, in sequence, does that mean the first one alone was somehow incomplete, a partial offer dressed up as a full one? No, the Genius song does exactly what it was built to do, completely, whether or not anything ever follows it. What follows is not a correction of something missing. It is a second, separate repair, for a second, separate closure, offered honestly as its own complete thing rather than hidden as a necessary add-on you were not told about up front. There is a second honest note worth adding here too, because I would rather you hear it from me than wonder about it later. Some people, a smaller number, describe a season where the wonder never fully closed the way it does for most adults, where something in them stayed curious and present even through hard years. If that sounds like your own story, the wealth signal alone may be exactly what your particular season needs, without the first practice necessarily coming first. Most people carry both closures, a few carry mainly one. Only you know your own history well enough to say which is true for you. There is one more honest question worth answering before we go further, because I suspect a few of you are already thinking it. Could you simply build a version of this yourself, a few quiet minutes a day of your own design, without paying for anything at all? Yes, honestly, you could, and I want to say that plainly rather than pretend otherwise. What a structured practice offers that a self-designed version often struggles to sustain is exactly the consistency this message has spent so long emphasizing. Most people who try to build their own version, with the best of intentions, find it quietly slides off their daily routine within 2 or 3 weeks, not from lack of willpower, but from lack of structure holding the intention in place. A guided practice removes the daily decision of what to do and how long to do it, which turns out to matter more than most people expect going in. If you are the kind of person who can sustain a self-built daily practice without any external structure, genuinely, sincerely, that is a real strength, and you may not need what is being offered here. This message has tried to be honest with you about who this is and is not for, and that honesty extends here too. Now, let me lay out plainly what is actually included and exactly what it costs. Because you have earned plain numbers, after everything honest, this message has already tried to be with you. There are 3 ways to walk through this door, and I want to describe all 3 clearly, because the honest path is rarely the one presented as the only option available. Presenting only one choice is a pressure tactic. Presenting the real shape of what is available, including the smaller paths, is simply respect. The first way is the genius song alone. 7 minutes a day, the guided practice we described in detail a few minutes ago, built to reopen the wonder and softened attention. This entire message has been circling since its first sentence. This is the starting point of the same journey the rest of this message has been describing. It is complete on its own. It is also, for many people, the first half of a fuller repair that the second piece continues. The Genius Song is $39, reduced from the regular price of $49. Alongside it come 4 bonus resources, offered at no additional cost. A short guide on leaving a lasting legacy for the people who come after you. A classic public domain-era book on positive thinking, the kind that shaped an entire century of thought on this subject. A 22-minute guided visualization audio, longer and deeper than the core practice, for the days you have more time to sit with it. And a simple 1-page habit infographic meant to keep the daily practice easy to remember without needing to reopen this message every morning. Let me say a word about each of these, briefly, because a bonus list without any context tends to blur together into a wall of names nobody actually reads closely. The Legacy Guide was written for the specific worry many people carry quietly about whether the patterns they are breaking now will actually reach the people who come after them, children, grandchildren, whoever that looks like in your own life. It is short, practical, and aimed at passing forward what you are reclaiming rather than keeping it locked inside one generation. The classic book on positive thinking is exactly what it sounds like, a public domain text from an era when this kind of thinking first entered popular consciousness, offered here because the foundational ideas in it still hold up, even a century later. Once you strip away the dated language around them, the extended guided visualization gives you a longer version of the same softening practice for the days when 7 minutes does not feel like enough, and you have room to sit with it further. And the habit infographic is simply a 1-page visual reminder meant to sit somewhere visible, a small nudge back to the practice on the days your attention is pulled in a dozen directions before you have even had coffee. Those 4 bonuses carry a combined value of $80 on their own. Added to the core practice, the full stated value of this first path comes to $119, available today for $39. The second way is the wealth signal alone, the 5-minute audio and 9-word practice built around the receiving and scarcity repair we spent so long naming tonight. I want to be honest about this path specifically. The way the path revealed in an offer like this deserves to be honest. For most people, this piece works best after the first practice has already done its work, not instead of it. If you already know, from your own honest self-assessment, that your closure sits mainly in the receiving and money layer, and the wonder in you never fully went quiet, this path may stand on its own for you. The wealth signal is also $39, reduced from $49. It comes with 4 bonus resources of its own. A guide on practical, honest ways to build additional cash flow without gimmicks. A written affirmation guide specifically built around the language of calm receiving rather than anxious striving. A money-saving tips guide, plainly practical, nothing exotic. And a collection of listener stories gathered from people who have used the practice, offered honestly as reported experience rather than guaranteed outcome. The cash flow guide focuses on practical, unglamorous ideas for additional income, nothing that promises overnight riches. Simply honest options many people overlook while they are still deep in the scarcity loop and too narrowed in attention to notice them. The affirmation guide pairs directly with the 9-word practice from the core audio, giving you a broader set of language to draw from as the receiving repair continues settling in over the following weeks. The savings guide is exactly what it sounds like: plain, practical tips, nothing requiring special expertise to apply. And the listener story collection gathers a range of honest, varied experiences offered, so you can see the shape of what this practice has looked like for people whose circumstances may resemble your own more closely than mine. Those 4 bonuses carry a combined value of $338. Added to the core practice, the full stated value of the wealth signal path comes to $377, available today for $39. The third way is both together. In the sequence this entire message has been describing: wonder first, then receiving. The complete restoration this whole night has been pointing toward since the first sentence. This is not a separate product with separate pricing tricks attached to it. It is simply both paths combined at the honest sum of their individual prices. Both together cost $78. That is exactly $39 plus $39, nothing hidden, nothing marked up first, so a fake discount could be applied after. I want to be completely plain about this, because so many combined offers manufacture a fake bundle discount that does not actually exist. This one does not. $78 is simply what both cost, together, honestly. What you receive combined is both core practices, both sets of 4 bonuses, 8 bonus resources total, carrying a combined stated value of $418, alongside both 7- and 5-minute practices themselves, for a full stated value of $496, available today for $78. This is the path most people who understand the full sequence tonight end up choosing, not because of pressure, but because the 2 repairs were built to complete each other. Wonder without receiving still leaves the second door closed. Receiving without wonder underneath it rarely holds for long. Together, in order, is simply the complete shape of what this whole message has been describing. I want to be careful here, one more time, because it matters. Choosing the combined path is not a test of how serious you are, and choosing a single path is not a lesser choice. Some people genuinely need only 1 repair right now, and returning for the second later, whenever that season arrives, remains just as available then as it is tonight. There is no penalty for starting smaller. The only real mistake, if there is one to name, would be understanding everything tonight has described and then doing nothing at all, not choosing the specific size of the first step. Whatever you choose, chosen one, choose it as an act of stewardship toward what you have already been given tonight, not as a purchase decision separate from everything else said here. The 3 names, the sequence, the honest picture of what stands between you and both doors, all of that belongs to you regardless. What follows is simply the practical shape of walking further into it, at whatever pace fits your own honest season. I want to speak honestly to something now because it deserves direct address rather than a vague reassurance. Whatever you decide, whether one path or the other, or both together or neither at all tonight, is protected the same way, completely. Everything here comes with a 90-day guarantee, full refund, no conditions attached, no questions requiring an explanation from you. If at any point in the first 90 days this does not feel like the right fit for you, a simple message is all it takes, and the full amount is returned. Because everything is digital, there is nothing to send back, nothing to package, nothing to mail, and you keep every bonus resource permanently, even if you request a full refund. That is not a typo, and I want to say it again plainly so there is no confusion. The bonuses stay with you regardless of what you decide about the refund. According to what the people behind this practice have reported, the number of people who have requested a refund sits well under 1 in 20, a low reported figure that I want to attribute honestly to them rather than claim as my own independently verified statistic. I have not personally audited that number, and I want to be transparent about that rather than present it as something I can vouch for beyond what has been reported to me. I want to explain why a guarantee this generous is even possible, because I think understanding the reasoning behind it matters more than simply hearing the number. When something is digital, there is no physical inventory lost when a refund happens, no product that has to be scrapped or resold at a loss. That means a genuinely risk-free guarantee costs the people behind this practice very little to offer, and it costs you nothing at all to accept. The 90-day window exists because real change, the kind this message has spent so long describing, rarely happens in the first few days. It takes weeks to notice whether a daily practice is actually reshaping something in you, and 90 days gives that process room to actually show itself before you have to decide anything permanently. This is also why keeping the bonuses, regardless of refund, matters as more than a generous gesture. It removes the last possible hesitation, the quiet fear that trying something honestly and deciding it is not for you will somehow leave you worse off than before you started. It will not. You can try this completely, fully, for 90 days, and walk away with your money back and every resource still in hand if it turns out not to be right for you. That is about as close to a risk-free decision as an honest offer can actually be. There is no subscription hiding anywhere in this offer. This is a single payment made once for something you keep permanently. Nothing renews automatically. Nothing charges again next month without you choosing it directly. Delivery happens by email within minutes of your decision. No shipping cost, nothing physical to wait for. Everything accessible from a simple private page. You can return to any time you want to listen again. Let me walk you through exactly what happens if you decide to walk through this door today, plainly, step by step, because uncertainty about the mechanics of something is often what stalls a decision more than the decision itself. You choose your path, 1, 2, or both together, through the link in the description beneath this message, or the comment pinned near the top. A simple checkout follows, nothing complicated, asking only for what is needed to deliver your email. Within minutes, an email arrives with everything included: the core audio or audios, the written practices, and every bonus resource attached to your chosen path. Nothing to download and install. Nothing technical required beyond opening a link on whatever device you already use daily. You could, realistically, be listening to the first practice within 10 minutes of making this decision, tonight, before this feeling has had time to fade the way most insight fades by morning. I mention that last part deliberately because I think it matters more than it might seem to at first. The gap between deciding something and actually beginning something is where most good intentions quietly die. Removing that gap, making the distance between decision and first practice as short as possible, is not a sales tactic. It is simply good design, aimed at making sure what you understood tonight actually has a chance to become something lived, rather than something merely heard. I also want to be honest about something many messages like this one are not honest about. There is no countdown attached to this offer, no artificial timer counting down to create pressure that is not actually real. I am not going to manufacture urgency where none exists. What I will say honestly is this: the cost of waiting is not a price increasing on a fixed date. It is simply more days passing inside the same closed doors we spent this entire message naming. More mornings where the wonder stays dim, more moments where receiving stays braced instead of open. That is the only real urgency here, and it is a true one, not a manufactured one. Remember the morning we pictured together earlier tonight, waking up before the alarm, curious instead of anxious, noticing the light through the window the way you used to as a child. That morning does not move further away because a countdown timer expires. It moves further away only in the ordinary sense that every day spent inside the old pattern is one more day spent inside the old pattern. Nothing more dramatic than that, and also nothing less true. I want to offer a comparison here, not to inflate the value of what is being offered, but because comparisons are sometimes the clearest way to see a true number honestly. A single hour with most therapists or coaches specializing in mindset work runs well past the cost of this entire combined offer, often by several multiples, and that is 1 hour, not a daily practice you keep permanently. A weekend retreat built around similar themes commonly runs into several $100s once travel and lodging are included. For a single weekend, rather than an ongoing daily tool, I am not saying those options lack value. Many of them are excellent. I am simply naming, honestly, where $78 for a permanent, twice daily, 12-minute combined practice actually sits against the wider landscape of what this kind of inner work typically costs. I want to address something else directly, because I think you deserve to hear it named plainly rather than left implied. You may have seen other practices online promising similar things, cheaper, faster, bigger claims attached. I am not going to spend time criticizing any of them specifically, because that is not the kind of message this has been from the first sentence. What I will say is that most of what gets sold in this space skips the actual naming this message spent so long doing: the quiet drift, the scarcity loop, the sequence, the honest limits of what a short daily practice can and cannot do. A tool without that naming is a tool without a map, and a map, more than almost anything else, is what actually determines whether a practice gets used consistently enough to matter. Here is the question I want to leave you with, the same one this whole message has been quietly building toward. Which is truer for you tonight, that the wonder in you has gone fully quiet and needs to be reawakened, or that it stayed alive even through hard years, and what you actually need is the receiving repair to finally catch up to it? Most people, once they sit with that question honestly, realize both are at least partly true, and that realization is usually what settles the decision on its own without needing another word of persuasion from me. I want to offer one more way to test your own answer, because a single question sometimes needs a second angle before it settles fully. Think about the last time something good happened to you, recently, even something small. Did you notice it fully, the way a child would, wide-eyed and present, or did your attention slide right past it toward the next worry in line? That answer points toward the genius song. Now think about the last time money, in any amount, arrived unexpectedly. Did you feel your chest ease, or did you feel it tighten, already calculating where the money needed to go before you had even had a full breath of gratitude for it? That answer points toward the wealth signal. If both questions produced the same uncomfortable answer, that is not a coincidence, and it is exactly why the combined path exists. There is no wrong choice here, chosen one, only an honest one. Whatever you choose, choose it from clarity rather than pressure, from your own honest read of your own season, not from anything said tonight, beyond simply naming what is actually true and what is actually available. Whatever you decide, chosen one, the path is placed clearly in the description beneath this message and in the comment pinned near the top. 3 options, honestly priced, honestly explained, protected the same way regardless of which you choose. Take the path that matches your own honest season, not the one that sounds most impressive to say out loud to someone else. We are close now to the end of what tonight has to offer, and I do not want to rush past this final stretch, because it deserves the same unhurried attention as everything that came before it. Before we move into the closing itself, I want to acknowledge plainly what has happened over the course of this message, because it deserves to be named rather than simply assumed. You began this message somewhere specific, maybe tired, maybe quietly confused about a delay you could not fully explain, maybe carrying a private frustration you had not put into words for anyone, including yourself. Something has shifted since then, not because of anything dramatic or performed, but because 3 real patterns were named plainly, honestly, without exaggeration, and naming a true thing correctly always changes something in the person who finally hears it. That change is already yours, regardless of what happens in the next few minutes, regardless of any decision still ahead of you. Think back, for a moment, to the very first words of this message, the ones that told you 2 things had gone quiet inside you without your permission. You did not fully know what that meant yet in that first minute. You know now. That is not a small distance to have traveled in one sitting, and I do not want you to underestimate it simply because it happened through listening rather than through some more visibly dramatic experience. Real change rarely announces itself with fireworks. It arrives, more often than not, exactly the way tonight arrived, quietly, through language, finally attached to something that had been wordless for years. You may not feel dramatically different in this exact instant, and that is completely normal. The shift tonight represents is the kind that reveals itself gradually in the small choices of the coming days, not in a single overwhelming moment tonight. You have walked with me through more tonight than most people are willing to walk through in a single sitting. 3 closures named, a sequence understood, a door described honestly, with nothing hidden, no false urgency, no borrowed authority pretending to be something it is not. That alone, regardless of anything else you decide, is worth acknowledging before we close. You have come further than most people who started this message with you. Many have already gone. You are still here, still present, still willing to receive one final word before this closes. That is not a small thing, and I do not want to let this moment pass without naming it plainly. There is one more thing I want to say before we move into the closing itself. Whatever you carry out of tonight, whether you walk through either door or neither, the 3 names you now hold, the quiet drift, the scarcity loop, and Dhammam, the active stillness that protects them both, are yours now, freely, regardless of anything else. Nobody can take back a thing once it has been truly named and understood. That is simply not how naming works. I think often about how differently a life unfolds once a pattern finally has language attached to it. Before tonight, you may have felt these 3 things without being able to point to them clearly. A vague heaviness, an unexplained flinch, a private confusion about why silence kept surfacing in your own thoughts. Vague things are hard to work with. Named things are not. That shift alone, from vague to named, is usually the hinge point. Every real change eventually turns on. Whatever you decide about the practices themselves, I would ask you to hold on to the 3 names a little longer than you might hold on to an ordinary idea you heard once. Say them to yourself sometime this week, quietly, not to anyone else yet. The quiet drift, the scarcity loop, damam. Let them settle the way anything true settles, slowly, without needing to be rushed into immediate action. Take a slow breath with me now, because what comes next asks for a quieter kind of attention than anything that has come before it in this message. Let whatever you have been holding on to through tonight, the tension, the questions, the old shame about years spent confused, begin to settle now. You do not need to hold it tightly anymore. Whatever needed to be understood has been understood. Whatever needed to be named has been named. What remains is simply release. I want to thank you honestly for staying present through all of this. Not everyone does. Most people who clicked on this message tonight are already gone, scrolled past, distracted, moved on to the next thing, competing for their attention. You stayed. You let yourself be taught something that asked real honesty of you in return, about money, about fear, about the years you have spent quietly confused. That kind of presence is rare, and it deserves to be acknowledged plainly before this closes. Whatever led you to this message tonight, whatever specific ache or question brought you here, I do not think it was random. Messages like this one reach a great many people. Very few stay all the way to this final stretch. You did. Sit with that for a moment, without rushing past it, because it is not a small thing. If there is a specific weight you have carried into tonight, picture it now, whatever shape it takes for you. A held breath, a clenched fist, a knot somewhere in your chest that has been there so long you stopped noticing it as unusual. See it clearly, for a moment, honestly, without judgment. Now, gently, let it go. Not with force, not with a dramatic release, simply a quiet opening of whatever has been closed. Let your hands unclench, if they are clenched. Let your shoulders drop their final inch. Let the breath you have been holding, in whatever form it has taken, finally leave you. This is not weakness. This is the exact posture the shepherd held through his own unseen years. The exact stillness the young man named Joseph carried through a foreign house that was never meant to be his final home. The exact damam that has been the quiet center of everything tonight has tried to teach you. Chosen one, hear this clearly, because it deserves to be said plainly, without any decoration softening it. You are not who you were when this message began. Something in you has been named tonight that was nameless before. Something in you has softened that was braced before. And something in you now understands silence not as punishment, but as the exact shape love takes when it is protecting something not yet ready to be seen. Let every excuse you have made for the years spent waiting fall away now. Let every private accusation you have made against yourself, that you were lazy, that you were undisciplined, that you were somehow unworthy of what was promised, fall away with it. None of that was ever true. It was drift. It was a loop. It was the ordinary residue of years lived under weight. Nobody ever taught you how to name. Let it fall one final time, and let it stay fallen. You are the one who noticed the wonder had gone quiet and chose to listen anyway. You are the one who saw the shape of the loop and did not look away from it. You are the one who understood, finally, why the door asked for silence instead of announcement. You are the carrier of something still forming, trusted with it precisely because you could be trusted to hold it well. You are chosen, not loudly, not publicly, but in exactly the quiet, thorough way that has always mattered most. You are the shepherd, still tending ordinary sheep on an ordinary morning, oil quietly resting on you where no one else can see it. You are the dreamer, carrying a promise through a season that looks nothing like the promise yet, faithful in the small, unseen tasks in front of you, regardless. You are the one who kept these things and pondered them quietly in your own heart, instead of narrating them to anyone who would listen. Every wisdom figure named tonight was simply a mirror, and the reflection in it, chosen one, has always been you. I am not going to tell you the exact day this reward becomes visible, because nobody honest can tell you that. And this message has tried to be honest with you from the very first sentence to this last one. What I can tell you, with complete certainty, is that the sequence is already moving. The wonder is already stirring. The loop is already loosening its grip, even now, even in this exact moment, simply because you stayed present long enough to hear it named correctly. If any part of that declaration landed in your chest the way truth tends to land, let this be the moment you receive it fully, without arguing yourself out of it the way you might have a few hours ago. This is not a performance you have to earn. It is simply true, and it has been true for longer than tonight. Say it with me now, quietly, in whatever way feels true to your own voice, out loud, if you are somewhere that allows it, silently in your own mind, if you are not. I am not drifted beyond repair. I am not looped beyond release. I am not overlooked. I am chosen, trusted with something still forming, and I will carry it the way it deserves to be carried, in silence, until it is ready to be seen. Let those words settle into you the way everything true tonight has settled, slowly, without force, without needing to be proven to anyone else in this exact moment. You do not need an audience for this declaration. You never did. That was, in the end, the entire lesson tonight was built to teach. Before this closes, place one final comment beneath this message, the words, "It is sealed." And if there is a name that just rose up in your mind while I said that, someone who needs exactly what you received tonight, send this to them before you close this message. Not as an obligation, as the same kind of quiet, trusted passing forward that everything tonight has been describing. And so it is, chosen one. What was named tonight cannot be unnamed. What was softened tonight will keep softening, one quiet day at a time, for as long as you keep choosing the stillness over the noise. The reward that must arrive in silence is already arriving, exactly the way it was always going to, in the dark, unseen soil, where every real thing has always grown first, before the world ever gets to see it. The two things that went quiet in you at the very start of this message, the wonder and the receiving, are already stirring, already beginning the slow work of switching back on, in the correct order, exactly the way this whole night described. That is the reward this title was always pointing toward, not a single dramatic moment, but a return, patient and certain, arriving in the only way anything real has ever arrived, quietly and completely. Carry this forward the way the shepherd carried his years in the field, the way the dreamer carried his years in a foreign house, the way the mother carried her wonder quietly in her own heart, not as a burden, as a covenant held gently, protected on purpose, until the day it no longer needs protecting because it has finally, fully arrived. Go now, chosen one, back into your ordinary evening, your ordinary week, whatever ordinary shape the next season takes. Carry what was named here quietly. Let it work the way real things always work, beneath the surface, unhurried, unannounced, until the morning it finally, unmistakably, shows itself.